It all started with a flicker on the GPS. A nameless route that shouldn't exist. Still, Lucas followed it. Unemployed, with his life in ruins, he just wanted to escape. But that road wasn't just hidden, it spoke. Whispered the names of the missing through the radio. And when the engine roared, he understood. This wasn't a detour. It was the road to damnation. So grab your popcorn, and let's follow Lucas down the road no one ever returns from.
It all kicked off with a simple GPS glitch. Lucas had no clue that punching in a random destination on that clunky rental car screen would send him spiraling down a road no map dared to chart. Freshly jobless, his coding gig snatched away by a corporate email that didn't even bother with a sorry. He was a mess, worn thin, nerves frayed, emotions tangled like old code he couldn't debug. So, he figured a road trip might untangle the knots in his head. He didn't overthink it when he pulled up to that dusty rental shack off the highway, a lonely little spot with flickering neon and a vibe that screamed, "Last Chance." The guy behind the counter, greasy hair, eyes dodging contact, slid him the keys to a beat-up black sedan. No paperwork, no question, just a grunt and a nod. Lucas didn't care. He wanted out, away, anywhere but the suffocating silence of his apartment. The car looked fine enough, a relic from a decade past, tires worn but rolling. He tossed his duffel bag in the back, slid into the driver's seat, and turned the key. That's when things got weird. The engine growled to life, and the radio crackled on without him touching a dial. Static at first, then voices, soft, eerie whispers weaving through the hiss. Name: Margaret Ann, Robert Teller, Jessica Lynn. Each one slipped out like a plea, fading into the next. Lucas frowned, jabbing at the buttons to shut it off, but the damn thing wouldn't quit. He chalked it up to a busted wire, some glitch in the old tech, and hit the gas anyway. The open road stretched ahead, a gray ribbon slicing through endless fields under a sky that couldn't decide if it wanted to rain. He didn't notice the GPS rerouting itself at first, the little arrow veering off the planned highway onto a jagged line that didn't match any route he'd ever seen. He tapped the screen, annoyed, but it flickered and held steady, pointing him deeper into nowhere. Miles ticked by, and the first stop came up fast, a gas station that looked like it hadn't served a soul in years. The pumps stood crooked, paint peeling, but one of them was dripping. Not a lot, just a slow, steady plink of fuel hitting the cracked concrete. Lucas pulled over, squinting at the dark puddles spreading beneath. No attendant, no cars, just the wind whistling through busted windows and a faded sign creaking overhead. He popped the gas cap, figuring he'd top off anyway, but the nozzle clicked empty, dry. Except for that drip. He crouched down, peering at the pump, and that's when he saw it, a faint smear of red on the hose, like someone had wiped a bloody hand and walked away. Uneasy, he climbed back in, the radio still murmuring its ghostly roll call, and floored it out of there. The road twisted on, narrower now, the asphalt fraying at the edges like it was giving up. Trees loomed closer, skeletal branches clawing at the sky, and the GPS kept nudging him forward, its voice calm and robotic. Continue straight. He didn't have a choice. Turning back felt wrong, like the road itself wouldn't let him. Hours later, exhaustion gnawing at him, he spotted a motel. The sign buzzed faintly, half the letters burned out, spelling VAC NCY in a sickly yellow glow. He pulled into the lot, gravel crunching under the tires, and stepped inside. The lobby smelled of mildew and stale cigarettes, a single bulb flickering over a chipped counter. Behind it sat a guest book, open to a page dated 17 years back. Same day, same month, every line filled with names in shaky handwriting. No one manned the desk, but a key dangled from a hook labeled Room 7. He grabbed it, too tired to question the emptiness, and hauled himself to the room. The bed sagged, the walls yellowed, and when he flicked on the light, the bulb popped, plunging him into shadow. Sleep came anyway, restless and jagged, punctuated by dreams of whispers chasing him down endless road. Morning broke gray and heavy, and Lucas hit the road again, the sedan's engine sputtering like it resented waking up. That's when he saw her, an old woman standing at the edge of the pavement, her coat flapping in the wind. She didn't wave, didn't move, just stared as he slowed down. Against his better judgment, he rolled down the window. Her voice rasped like dry lead. "Don't follow the red line," she said, eyes locked on his. "Nobody comes back from that." He blinked, glanced at the road, and sure enough, A thin streak of red paint, or something thicker, ran along the asphalt, faint but unbroken. "What line?" he started to ask, but when he looked back, she was gone. No footprints, no sign, just the wind and that damn red thread stretching ahead. The radio got louder after that, the names piling up, some repeating like a broken record. Margaret and Robert Teller. Jessica Lynn. His hands tightened on the wheel, sweat beading on his neck despite the chill. He decided he'd had enough. This car, this trip, all of it. He'd drop the sedan back at the rental place and figure out how to get home, even if it meant hitchhiking. Problem was, when he punched the return coordinates into the GPS, it spun, recalculating endlessly, then blanked out. He drove anyway, retracing his route by memory, but the shack wasn't there. The spot where it should have been, just a stretch of weeds and a busted mile marker. He pulled over, heart hammering, and dug through the glove box for anything. A receipt, a number, proof the place existed. Nothing. Then he remembered the trunk. He hadn't checked it when he picked up the car. Why would he? Now though, with the radio chanting and the road feeling alive under him, he had to know. He popped the latch and stepped around back, the hinges creaking as the lid lifted. Inside sat a duffel bag, not his, older, stained, zipper half open. He tugged it free, and something spilled out, a Polaroid photo, edges curled, showing a woman smiling in front of the same black sedan. On the back, scrawled in faded ink, Margaret and June '98. His stomach dropped. The whispers on the radio weren't random. They were tied to this thing, this car that didn't belong anywhere. He shoved the bag back, slammed the trunk, and got behind the wheel, hands shaking. That's when he felt it, a weight in the passenger seat, invisible but real, pressing down the cushion. He didn't look over. He couldn't. The car rolled forward, the red line brighter now, practically glowing against the asphalt. The GPS flickered back on, but the screen showed no road, just a pulsing, moving through a void. The whispers turned to voices, clearer, angrier, overlapping in a chorus he couldn't shut out. "Where are you taking us?" one demanded. "You can't leave," another hissed. Lucas gripped the wheel, his mind racing. Was this real? Was he losing it, cracking under the stress of the last month? Or had he stumbled into something bigger, something that swallowed people whole and spat out their names on a haunted frequency? The road stretched on, bending in ways that defied logic, curves doubling back, straightaways looping into themselves. He passed the gas station again, the drip louder, the puddle spreading like it was alive. The motel flickered into view, then vanished as he blinked. Time blurred, hours bleeding into minutes, and the voices grew sharper, closer, like they were leaning in from the back seat. He tried to focus, to think. The car was the key. It had to be. Something about it, something hidden, was dragging him deeper. He yanked the wheel, pulling onto the shoulder, and tore through the interior, under seats, behind panels, anywhere for a clue. Beneath the driver's mat, he found it, a scratched metal plate, bolted down, with a single word etched in jagged letters: ferryman. Just imagine being trapped behind the wheel of a car that won't let you leave. Would you keep driving, or would you try to escape, knowing it always finds you again? Let us know in the comments what you would do in Lucas's place. Would you search for answers, or surrender to the ride? If you're hooked and want to uncover more twisted journeys like this one, give this video a like and hit that subscribe button. There's always another road ahead, and you won't want to miss where it leads. His breath caught. The name pinged something in his memory, a half-remembered myth about a guide who carried souls across borders they couldn't cross alone. Was that what this was? Some twisted version of that tale, with him trapped as the driver? The voices swelled, a dozen now, maybe more, pleading and cursing in equal measure. He bolted the plate back down, mind spinning. He couldn't ditch the car. It kept finding him, reappearing no matter how far he walked away. He'd tried once, hours back, abandoning it at a crossroads only to find it idling behind him 10 minutes later, engine purring like a predator. The red line pulsed ahead, thicker, wetter, leading him toward a horizon that never got closer. He drove, half convinced he was dreaming, half terrified he wasn't. The weight beside him shifted, a cold brush against his arm, and the rearview mirror caught a flicker, eyes, pale and unblinking, staring from the back seat. His scream lodged in his throat as he swerved, tires screeching, but the road held him tight, unforgiving. The radio crackled, a new name cutting through: Lucas James. His own voice echoed back, distorted, joining the other. Panic clawed at him, but he couldn't stop. The car wouldn't let him. It rolled on, relentless, the line stretching into the unknown, pulling him along with every lost soul it had claimed before. Night fell, or maybe it didn't. Time stopped making sense. The sky hung heavy, a bruise of clouds that swallowed the stars. He passed signs he couldn't read, letters twisting into shapes that hurt to look at. The gas gauge never moved, stuck on full, like the car fed on something else. He talked to himself to stay sane, muttering about code, about fixes, about anything to drown out the voices. But they crept in, threading through his words, turning his thoughts against him. "You're one of us now," they whispered, and he slammed the dashboard, shouting into the dark. The sedan didn't flinch. It purred louder, pleased, like it thrived on his fear. A bridge loomed ahead, rusted and swaying, spanning a river that shimmered black under a moon he couldn't find. The red line ran straight across, daring him to follow. He hesitated, foot hovering over the brake, but the car lurched forward on its own, tires thudding onto the metal grate. The voices cheered, a sick harmony ringing in his ears as the bridge groaned under the weight. Water lapped below, too loud, too alive, and he swore he saw faces in the ripple. Margaret, Robert, Jessica, watching him pass. The far side stretched into fog, thick and choking, swallowing the road whole. He drove into it, blind, the sedan vibrating with a life he couldn't explain. The fog didn't lift. It pressed in, heavy and damp, muffling the radio but not the voices. They were inside him now, buzzing in his skull. He gripped the wheel, knuckles white, and pushed on, chasing answers he wasn't sure existed. The car shuddered, a jolt rocking the frame, and the dashboard lit up, every warning light blazing red. He laughed, a cracked sound, because what did it matter? The sedan wasn't breaking down, it was waking up. The seats warmed beneath him, the air thickened, and the red line glowed through the haze, a lifeline or a noose, he couldn't tell anymore. Shapes moved in the fog, tall, thin figures that didn't walk but glided, keeping pace with the car. He squinted, heart pounding, but they stayed just out of focus, shadows with no source. The voices named them, a roll call of the lost, and he realized they weren't behind him anymore. They were ahead, waiting. The sedan picked up speed, the engine roaring, and Lucas fought to steer, to slow, to do anything but follow. But the wheel locked, the pedals sank uselessly under his feet, and the car drove itself, chasing the line into a darkness that swallowed sound and sight. He wasn't alone. He'd known that for miles, but now it was undeniable. The weight pressed closer, a hand brushing his shoulder, cold and deliberate. The mirror showed nothing, but he felt it, eyes boring into him, breath on his neck. The radio spat static, then silent, and in that quiet, a new sound rose, a low hum, vibrating through the chassis, syncing with his pulse. The fog thinned just enough to reveal a signpost, weathered and leaning, with words he couldn't read but understood, "No return." The red line split, forking into two paths, and the car chose without him, veering left into a tunnel of trees that clawed at the roof. Branches scraped the windows, a screeching chorus, and the hum grew louder, rattling his teeth. The voices faded, replaced by a single whisper, his own, repeating his name like a mantra. "Lucas James. Lucas James," he shouted over it, begging for it to stop, but the car drank his words, feeding on them. The tunnel stretched on endless, the red line a vein pulsing through the earth. He saw things in the shadows, flashes of faces, hands pressed against the glass, a child's shoe tumbling across the road. Each glimpse chipped away at him, unraveling the thin thread of reason he clung to. The sedan slowed, not stopping but crawling, deliberate, like it wanted him to see. A clearing opened ahead, ringed by trees that bent inward, forming a cage of branches. In the center stood a figure, not the old woman, not the shadows, but something else. Tall, draped in black, its face hidden but watching. The car rolled toward it, the hum now a roar, and Lucas pounded the wheel, the door, anything to break free. The locks clicked shut, the windows fogged, and the figure raised a hand, not in greeting, but command. The red line flared, splitting the ground, and the sedan dipped, tires spinning as it plunged into the crack. He didn't fall far. The car landed soft, impossibly, on a road that shimmered like oil. The figure was gone, but its presence lingered, heavy in the air. The voices returned, softer now, resigned, and he realized they weren't fighting anymore. They were welcoming him. The sedan rolled forward, the red line endless, winding through a landscape that shifted with every blink. Fields one moment, water the next, then a city of ruins swallowed by vine. He drove, or it drove, time slipping away, his hands numb on the wheel. The hum settled into his bone, a rhythm he couldn't shake, and the weight beside him pressed closer, a companion he couldn't name. The road bent, climbing now, toward a light that wasn't the sun. Too cold, too sharp. He squinted, chasing it, because what else could he do? The sedan purred, eager, and the voices wove a story he couldn't follow, threads of lives lost to the same endless drive. He saw the gas station again, the motel, the bridge, each looping back, warped and wrong, like memories bleeding together. The red line thickened, a river now, carrying him toward that light, and he wondered, not for the first time, if he'd ever rented the car at all. Had he crashed, back on that first highway? Was this his mind, unraveling, or something real, something that hunted the broken? The light grew, blinding, and the sedan surged, tires humming against the slick road. The weight shifted, a hand on his arm, guiding him, and he didn't pull away. The voices chanted, a hymn to the lost, and he felt himself slipping, not into sleep, but something deeper, a current pulling him under. The red line vanished, swallowed by the glare, and the car leaped forward, chasing a horizon that twisted and stretched, always out of reach. He drove on, caught in the loop, the hum his heartbeat, the road his prison, and the light his only guide, flickering like a promise he couldn't trust. The light pulsed ahead, a cold beacon that didn't warm the air or chase away the shadows. It just hung there, taunting Lucas as the sedan barreled toward it. The hum in his bones grew sharper, a vibration that made his teeth ache, and the hand on his arm tightened, fingers pressing through his jacket like they knew him. He didn't dare turn his head, didn't want to see what sat beside him, but the presence was undeniable now, steady, patient, waiting for something he couldn't guess. The road beneath the tires shifted again, no longer slick but rough, a gravel crunch that rattled the frame. The scenery blurred, trees 1 second, a flat expanse of cracked earth the next, then a stretch of water that shouldn't have held the car's weight but did. He drove across it, ripples spreading outward, reflecting that piercing light in jagged shard. The voices hadn't left him. They'd softened into a murmur, a background hum that wove through the engine's growl, but every so often, one broke through, clear, sharp, like a needle through fabric. "You're close," it said, a woman's voice, maybe Margaret Ann, though he couldn't be sure. Close to what? He wanted to scream the question, but his throat locked up, words dying before they formed. The sedan didn't care. It surged forward, relentless, the dashboard lights still blazing red, a silent alarm he'd stopped trying to understand. The air thickened, heavy with a smell he couldn't place, something metallic like rust, mixed with a faint tang of gasoline. It clung to his skin, seeping into his lungs, and he coughed, the sound swallowed by the hum. The water vanished beneath him, replaced by a road of black stone, smooth and endless, cutting through a field of ash. Gray flakes drifted down, coating the windshield, and the wipers kicked on without him touching them, smearing the dust into streaks. He squinted through it, the light sharper now, splitting into prisms that danced across the glass. The hand on his arm slid away, leaving a chill that sank deep, and he felt the weight shift again, not gone, but moving, settling into the back seat. A glance in the rear view showed nothing but shadows, though the mirror trembled, like it couldn't hold the reflection steady. The voices swelled, a chorus now, overlapping in a language he didn't know but felt in his gut, urgent, pleading, pulling him toward that fractured glow. The sedan hit a bump, jarring him, and the road tilted upward, steep and sudden. He braced himself, expecting the car to stall, but it climbed effortlessly, tires gripping the stone like claws. The ash fell heavier, a storm of it now, blotting out the edges of the world. All he had was the light and the line, not red anymore, but white, a stark thread slicing through the gray. It wasn't painted. It pulsed, alive, threading through the stone like a vein. The hum synced with it, a rhythm that thrummed in his chest, and he realized he wasn't breathing anymore, not normally at least. His lungs moved, but the air felt wrong, too thick, like he was drowning in it. A shape loomed through the ash, a tower, maybe, or a spire, jagged and tall, piercing the sky where the light burned brightest. The sedan aimed for it, unwavering, and Lucas gripped the wheel, not steering but holding on, a passenger in his own nightmare. The voices chanted louder, names tumbling over each other, Robert, Jessica, Margaret, mixed with his own, a roll call that wouldn't stop. The spire grew clearer, its edges sharp enough to cut, and he saw movement along its base, figures, dozens of them, standing still as the car approached. Not shadows this time, but people, or what was left of them, their outlines faint against the ash. They didn't move, didn't wave, just watched, eyes glinting like coins in the dark. The road leveled out, the sedan slowing as it neared the spire, and the white line flared, splitting into a web that wrapped the structure like a net. The car rolled to a stop, the engine cutting out for the first time since he'd turned the key. Silence crashed in, heavy and absolute, broken only by the faint tap of ash against the roof. The figures didn't approach. They stood there, a ring of sentinels, and Lucas felt their stares boring into him. The light pulsed overhead, a heartbeat in the sky, and the weight in the back seat shifted again, closer, a cold breath brushing his ear. "Get out," it whispered. Not a voice he knew, but one that sank into him, undeniable. He didn't want to. Every instinct screamed to stay put, to lock the doors and wait it out. But his hand moved anyway, fumbling for the handle. The door clicked open, and the air outside hit him, frigid, laced with that rust gasoline sting. He stepped onto the stone, legs shaky, and the sedan's engine growled back to life behind him, headlights snapping on, pinning him in their glare. He turned, half expecting the car to lunge, but it sat there, idling, waiting. The figures hadn't moved, but they were clearer now. Men, women, some in clothes from decades past, others in scraps that barely held together. Their faces were wrong, too still, like masks carved from wax, but their eyes tracked him, alive and hungry. The spire loomed above, its surface slick and black, reflecting the light in wave. He took a step toward it, then another, drawn by something he couldn't name. The white lines pulsed fast, a network of threads that climbed the structure. And he saw now they weren't random. They formed words, names, etched into the stone. Hundreds, thousands, stretching up into the ash-choked sky. He scanned them, heart pounding, and there it was, near the base, Lucas James. His name, carved deep, glowing faintly like it belonged there. He stumbled back, breath hitching, and the figure shifted, not walking, but drifting, closing the circle around him. The sedan's horn blared, a single sharp note that echoed off the spire, and the light flared, blinding him. When his vision cleared, the car was closer, parked at the edge of the circle, door still open. The figures stopped, their eyes locked on him, and the weight from the back seat stepped out. Not a shape he could see, but a presence, heavy and deliberate, moving toward the spire. The voices surged, a wave of sound that knocked him to his knees, and he clutched his head, trying to block them out. They weren't just names anymore. They were stories, fragments of lives spilling into him. A woman lost on a rainy night, a man chasing a shortcut, a girl who never made it home. And him, woven into it, his own voice whispering back, "Lucas James." He crawled toward the car, desperate, the stone biting into his palm. The figures parted, letting him through, and he hauled himself inside, slamming the door. The engine roared, the headlights cutting through the ash, and the sedan peeled out, tires screeching as it fled the spire. The light dimmed behind him, the figures fading into the gray, but the weight stayed, pressed against his side, colder now, insistent. The road stretched on, the white lines twisting into new patterns, and he drove, hands trembling, the hum back in his bone. The GPS flickered on, screen blank except for that pulsing, moving through nothing. The ash thinned, revealing a landscape of ruins, crumbled buildings, streets choked with vines, a city dead but breathing. The sedan wove through it, dodging debris, the white lines guiding him deeper. He saw movement in the corners of his eyes, shapes darting between the wrecks, too fast to catch, but the weight beside him didn't react, just sat there, a silent anchor. The voices settled into a rhythm, a chant that matched the engine's pulse, and he felt himself slipping again, not into fear but something else, acceptance, maybe, or surrender. The road climbed once more, spiraling up a hill of shattered concrete, and at the top sat a gate, rusted iron, swinging open as the car approached. He drove through, the sedan rattling over uneven ground, and the city vanished, replaced by a plain of red dirt that stretched to the horizon. The white lines glowed here, brighter, threading through the earth like root. The light returned, not above but ahead, a thin slit in the sky, and the sedan aimed for it, picking up speed. The weight shifted, a hand brushing his neck, and the voices whispered together, "You're home." He didn't know what they meant, didn't want to, but the words sank into him, heavy and final. The slit widened, a tear in the world, and the car leaped toward it, the hum a scream now, the lines converging into a single path. The air shimmered, heat rolling off the dirt, and the sedan hit the edge, tires lifting for a split second before slamming back down. The light swallowed him, a flood of white that burned his eyes, and the voices roared, a cacophony of welcome and warning. He blinked, vision swimming, and the road reformed, black stone again, endless, cutting through a void where stars blinked in and out. The weight pressed closer, a companion he couldn't shake, and the sedan rolled on, the hum his only constant, the light his guide, pulling him deeper into a journey that refused to end. The void stretched around him, an endless sea of black punctured by those flickering stars, winking like eyes that couldn't decide whether to watch or look away. The sedan carved through it, tires humming against the stone road, a sound that burrowed into Lucas's skull and stayed there, relentless. The light ahead didn't dim, it sharpened, a blade of white slicing the darkness, and the car chased it with a hunger he could feel in the frame, a vibration that rattled his rib. The weight beside him pressed in tighter, not just a presence now but a force, cold and unyielding, its touch seeping through his skin like frost. He kept his eyes forward, refusing to glance over, though the rear-view mirror taunted him with flashes, pale hands, a shadow that bent wrong, eyes that caught the light and threw it back. The voices hadn't stopped, they rolled through the air, a tide of whispers that ebbed and flowed, tugging at his thoughts like fingers picking at a seam. The stone beneath the tires shimmered, flecks of silver glinting as the sedan sped on, and the road began to twist, not in curves, but in ways that defied sense, tilting upward then sideways, looping until he couldn't tell if he was climbing or falling. His stomach lurched, but the car held steady, glued to the path, and the white lines reappeared, threading through the stone like veins of light. They pulsed in time with a hum, a heartbeat he couldn't escape, and the voices synced with it, chanting names, his included, until they blurred into a single, endless sound. He gripped the wheel, knuckles aching, and tried to focus, to anchor himself, but the void pressed in, heavy and alive, swallowing every thought he clung to. A shape loomed ahead, breaking the emptiness. A bridge, not the rusted one from before, but something vast, its arches carved from a material that glowed faintly, like bone under moonlight. The sedan barreled toward it, the light flaring at the far end, and the road tilted again, forcing him up the incline. The tires thudded onto the bridge, a hollow echo ringing out, and he saw them, figures lining the edges, standing still, their outlines sharp against the glow. Not the wax-faced watchers from the spire, but something else, taller, draped in robes that fluttered without wind. Their heads turned as he passed, faces hidden in shadow, and the weight beside him stirred, a low sound escaping, not a word, but a growl deep and possessive. The bridge stretched on, longer than it should have been, the arches bending overhead like ribs caging him in. The voices sharpened, cutting through the hum, and he caught fragments, pleas, warnings, a child sob that twisted his gut. "Don't look back," one said, clear as a bell, and he almost did, instinct kicking in, but the hand on his shoulder clamped down, holding him forward. The light at the end pulsed fast, a strobe that seared his eyes, and the sedan surged, the engine roaring like it was alive. The figures along the bridge didn't move, but he felt them shift, a ripple passing through them, and the air grew colder, biting at his lungs with every breath. The bridge ended abruptly, the sedan dropping onto a road of cracked clay, red and dry, stretching into a haze that swallowed the stars. The light dimmed, retreating into the distance, and the car slowed, not stopping but pacing itself, like it was stalking something. The weight eased off his shoulder, sliding back, and he risked a glance in the mirror. Nothing, just the empty seat, though the cushion sagged, dented by an unseen mass. The voices softened, a murmur now, weaving a story he couldn't follow. Roads taken, lives lost, a thread that tied them all to this damn car. He wiped sweat from his brow, hand shaky, and noticed the dashboard lights had dimmed, no longer screaming red but glowing a faint amber, like embers refusing to die. The clay road split, forking into 3 paths, each marked by a white line that shimmered wetly, as if painted in blood that wouldn't dry. The sedan chose without him, veering right, and the scenery shifted. A forest of twisted trees, branches black and gnarled, leaves dripping a sap that hissed when it hit the ground. The air thickened, humid and sour, and the hum deepened, rattling the window. He saw movement in the trees, quick, darting shapes that kept pace, their forms blurred but human enough to unsettle him. The voices named them, a roll call of the forgotten, and he realized they weren't chasing him. They were following, drawn to the car like moths to a flame. The forest thinned, opening into a plane of glass, smooth and reflective, stretching to a horizon that bent upward, defying gravity. The sedan rolled onto it, tires silent now, the hum the only sound left. The light reappeared, not ahead but above, a slit in the sky that bled white into the void. He squinted up, the reflection blinding him, and saw himself in the glass. Not just his face, but a dozen versions, fractured and overlapping, each staring back with eyes he didn't recognize. The weight returned, a hand brushing his neck, and the voices whispered together, "You're all of them." He flinched, the words sinking in, and the sedan picked up speed, racing across the glass toward that slit, the hum a scream that drowned out his thought. The glass cracked beneath him, spiderwebs spreading with every mile, and the sky tilted, the slit widening into a maw of light. The sedan leaped, tires lifting, and he braced himself, expecting a fall, but it landed soft, impossibly, on a road of woven vines, green and pulsing, threading through a jungle of shadow. The air was warm now, thick with the scent of earth and decay, and the light retreated, a distant glow filtering through the canopy. The voices settled into a rhythm, a chant that matched the vine's pulse, and he felt the weight shift again, not beside him, but everywhere, a presence that filled the car, pressing against the windows, the seats, his skin. The road twisted, narrowing into a tunnel of roots that clawed at the sedan, scraping the roof with a sound like nails on metal. He ducked instinctively, though the ceiling held, and the vines glowed faintly, casting a sickly green over the dashboard. The GPS flickered, screen alive again, but it showed no map, just a spiral, tightening inward, the dot that was him trapped at its edge. The hum synced with his heartbeat, a drumbeat he couldn't shake, and the voices wove a new thread, his voice, repeating his name, Lucas James, over and over, until it wasn't just sound but a weight, pulling him deeper. The tunnel opened, spilling him onto a plateau of stone, gray and weathered, ringed by cliffs that dropped into nothing. The sedan rolled to a stop, engine idling, and the light flared ahead, a wall of it, towering and solid, blocking the road. The vines trailed behind, curling back into the tunnel, and the weight pressed closer, a cold breath on his ear. "Touch it," it hissed, not a request but a command, and he stared at the light, heart pounding. It wasn't just bright, it moved, rippling like water, and he saw shapes within it, faces, hands, a city skyline that flickered and vanished. The voices urged him on, a chorus of need, and he reached for the door, fingers trembling, knowing he shouldn't but unable to stop. He stepped out, the stone cold under his boots, and the sedan's engine cut out, silence rushing in. The light pulsed, warm now, drawing him closer, and the figures in it sharpened. Margaret, Robert, Jessica, watching him with eyes that begged and accused. He took a step, then another, the weight following, a shadow at his back. The voices swelled, a hymn to the lost, and he reached out, hand shaking, the light inches away. It burned, not with heat but with something else, memory, maybe, or truth, and he felt it pull, not just his arm but his whole self, unraveling him thread by thread. The sedan roared back to life, headlights snapping on, and he stumbled, the light releasing him. He turned, half running, and dove inside, the door slamming shut as the car peeled out, tires screeching against the stone. The light dimmed behind him, the plateau vanishing, and the road reformed. Black sand now, endless and shifting, dunes rising and falling like waves. The weight settled beside him, colder, heavier, and the voices whispered, "Not yet." He drove on, the hum his anchor, the sand swallowing his tracks, the light a memory that lingered in his eyes, pulling him forward into a darkness that refused to fade. The dunes parted, revealing a river of ink, black and still, cutting through the sand. The sedan rolled toward it, slowing, and a bridge appeared, not bone or iron, but glass, fragile and trembling. The light flickered across it, a thin thread at the far end, and the car crept forward, tires crunching as the glass groaned. The weight shifted, a hand on his arm, guiding him, and the voices chanted, a lullaby now, soft and haunting. He crossed, the river watching from below, and the bridge shattered behind him, pieces falling into the dark. The road stretched on, sand giving way to stone, the light his only guide, and he drove, caught in the current, the hum his heartbeat, the weight his shadow, chasing a horizon that twisted and danced, always out of. The stone road unrolled beneath the sedan, smooth and unyielding, a ribbon of gray slicing through the shifting dark. The light ahead pulsed faintly now, a heartbeat in the distance, guiding Lucas deeper into whatever this was, a nightmare, a trap, a reality he couldn't unpick. The hum thrummed through the car, steady and alive, syncing with the rhythm of his breath, and the weight beside him settled heavier, a presence that didn't speak but pressed against him, cold and deliberate. The tires whispered against the stone, a sound that looped in his ears, and the void around him thickened, not empty anymore, but crowded, filled with shapes that flickered at the edges of his vision, too quick to catch. The voices rode the air, soft but insistent, threading through the hum like a current, names, pleas, fragments of lives he couldn't place but felt in his bone. The road dipped, a sudden drop that jolted the sedan, and the scenery snapped into focus. A canyon, walls of jagged rock towering on either side, their surfaces glinting with veins of silver that caught the light and threw it back. The sedan rolled down, the incline steep but controlled, and the hum deepened, rattling the dashboard. The weight shifted, a hand brushing his shoulder, not guiding this time, but resting, a chill that sank through his jacket and lingered. He kept his eyes on the road, the light glowing brighter at the canyon's base, and the voices sharpened, weaving a tapestry of sound. Margaret's laugh, Robert's shout, Jessica's whisper, all tangled with his own name, Lucas James, echoing back in a voice that wasn't quite his. The canyon narrowed, the walls closing in, and the sedan slowed, tires crunching over loose gravel that spilled from the cliffs. Shadows danced across the rock, not cast by the light but moving on their own. Tall, thin figures that stretched and bent, their edges fraying like smoke. He squinted, trying to make them out, but they slipped away, darting between cracks in the stone. The white lines reappeared, faint at first, then bold, threading through the gravel like roots breaking through soil. They pulsed, a slow rhythm that matched the light, and the sedan followed, drawn forward, the engine purring with a life he couldn't explain. The voices grew louder, urgent now, a chorus that pressed against his skull, begging him to listen, to understand. The road leveled out, the canyon opening into a basin of cracked earth, red and dry, stretching toward the light, a wall of it now, shimmering like heat off asphalt. The sedan rolled to a stop, engine idling, and the weight beside him stirred, a low sound escaping it, a sigh maybe, or a growl, too soft to tell. He stared at the light, its surface rippling, and saw shapes within it again. Faces, hands, a road that twisted into itself, endless and familiar. The voices named them, a roll call of the lost, and he felt the pull, not just in his chest but deeper, a thread tugging at something he couldn't name. The hand on his shoulder tightened, urging him forward, and he reached for the door, fingers numb, knowing he shouldn't but unable to resist. He stepped out, boots sinking into the cracked earth, and the sedan's headlights flared, pinning him in their glow. The air was dry, sharp with the scent of dust and something bitter, like burnt metal. The light loomed closer, its ripples slowing, and he took a step, then another, the weight following. Not beside him now, but behind, a shadow that stretched long across the ground. The voices swelled, a hymn of longing, and he reached out, hand trembling, the light warm against his skin. It didn't burn this time. It sank in, a flood of sensation that wasn't his, memories of rain-soaked highways, a child's hand slipping away, a scream cut short. He staggered, the weight steadying him, and the light pulsed, revealing a name carved into the earth, Lucas James, glowing red against the cracks. The sedan's horn blared, a sharp note that shattered the moment, and he stumbled back, the light releasing him. He turned, lungs heaving, and dove inside, the door slamming as the car lurched forward, tires spinning in the dirt. The canyon vanished, the road reforming, black tar now, slick and shining, stretching into a fog that swallowed the light. The weight settled beside him, colder, heavier, and the voices whispered, "You can't run." He gripped the wheel, hands slick with sweat, and drove, the hum his lifeline, the tar reflecting nothing but the sedan's own glow. The fog thickened, pressing against the windows, and the road twisted, a spiral that tightened with every turn. The tar gave way to cobblestone, rough and uneven, rattling the sedan as it climbed a hill shrouded in mist. The light flickered ahead, a lantern swinging in the dark, and the voices softened, a lullaby now, weaving through the hum. He saw shapes in the fog, houses, maybe, or ruin, their outlines blurred and fleeting. The sedan crested the hill, and the fog parted, revealing a town, empty streets, windows dark, a clock tower frozen at midnight. The cobblestone gleamed wet, though no rain fell, and the white lines pulsed through it, leading him deeper. The weight shifted, a hand brushing his neck, and the voices murmured, "This is yours." He frowned, the words sinking in, and the sedan rolled on, weaving through the streets, the lantern light dancing just out of reach. The town stretched on, endless and looping, the same corners repeating with subtle shift, a broken sign here, a cracked window there. The clock tower loomed again, then again, each pass ticking the hands backward, though they never moved. The hum deepened, a pulse that shook the seats, and the voices named the streets, Margaret Lane, Robert Road, Jessica Way, each one a thread tying him to the car, to the road, to the light. He tried to stop, slamming the brakes, but the sedan ignored him, gliding forward, the lantern swinging closer, its glow revealing a figure beneath, not robed, not shadowed, but familiar, a face he knew but couldn't place. The sedan slowed, tires hissing against the stone, and the figure stepped forward, features sharpening. His own face, older, lined with something like sorrow. The light flared, blinding him, and the voices roared, a wave of sound that knocked him back. He blinked, the figure gone, the town dissolving into fog, and the road reformed. Sand now, red and shifting, dunes rising like wave. The sedan surged, the hum a scream, and the weight pressed closer, a hand on his arm, guiding him. The light returned, a slit in the sky, and the car aimed for it, tires spinning as the sand parted, revealing a chasm of black glass below. He braced himself, expecting a drop, but the sedan leaped, landing smooth on a road of woven metal, silver and taut, stretching into a void where the stars burned red. The light pulsed ahead, a beacon that didn't warm, and the voices chanted, a rhythm he couldn't shake. His name, their names, a loop that tightened around him. The weight shifted, a cold breath on his ear, and the sedan rolled on, the metal singing beneath the tires, a sound that clawed at his nerve. The road bent, climbing toward the slit, and the glass chasm gleamed below, reflecting 1,000 versions of the car, each one driving, each one him. The slit widened, a tear in the void, and the sedan hit it, the light flooding in, white and searing. The hum roared, the voices screamed, and he felt himself unravel, not falling, but stretching, pulled thin across the road, the car, the stars. The weight held him, anchoring him, and the sedan landed hard, tires screeching on a road of bone, white and polished, cutting through a plain of ash. The light retreated, a glow on the horizon, and the voices settled, a whisper now, threading through the hum. He drove, hands numb, the bone road endless, the ash falling soft, the weight his shadow, chasing a light that flickered and danced, always ahead, always out of reach. The plain stretched on, the ash thickening into a storm, blotting out the stars. The sedan pushed through, headlights cutting the gray, and the bone road gleamed wet, though no water fell. The voices named it, Ferryman's Stretch, a thread from the car's past, and he remembered the plate, the words scratched beneath the mat. The hum pulsed, a heartbeat in the storm, and the weight shifted, a hand brushing his neck, colder now, insistent. The light flared, splitting the ash, and a shape loomed, a gate, iron and rusted, swinging open as the sedan approached. He drove through, the bone giving way to gravel, the ash thinning, and the road twisted, climbing toward a sky that bled red, the light his guide, pulling him deeper into a journey that refused a pause. The gravel road stretched on, crunching beneath the sedan's tires as it wound through a landscape bathed in that eerie red glow, the sky above throbbing like a living thing. The light ahead wasn't fixed anymore. It danced, splintering into streaks that darted across the horizon, elusive and wild, pulling Lucas forward with a promise he couldn't decipher. The hum pulsed through the car, a steady vibration that burrowed into his chest, matching the frantic rhythm of his heart, and the weight beside him grew heavier, a cold shadow that clung to him, its presence silent but inescapable. The air shimmered around the road, streaked with crimson veins that pulsed faintly, and the voices drifted through, soft, persistent, a weave of names and murmurs that looped his own into the mix. Lucas James whispered in tones that felt both familiar and foreign. The gravel smoothed out, morphing into a slab of dark stone, polished and slick, reflecting the fractured light in jagged bursts. The sedan glided over it, the engine growling low, a sound that mingled with the hum and sent tremors through the seat. The scenery shifted, spires of black rock jutted from the earth, their surfaces glinting with a wet sheen, and between them, wisps of mist curled upward, glowing faintly red. The white lines reappeared, threading through the stone, pulsing slow and steady, guiding the car onward, and the weight beside him moved. A hand brushed his shoulder, light but deliberate, its chill sinking. He kept his eyes locked on the road, the light ahead splitting again, and through the streaks, something took shape, a vast arch carved from the same black rock, its edges jagged and trembling with a faint, electric buzz. The sedan eased forward, tires whispering against the stone, and the voices swelled, weaving a tapestry of sound. Margaret's quiet cry, Robert's sharp grunt, Jessica's breathy plea, all tangled with his name, a chant that pressed against skull. The archway loomed closer, its center a haze of swirling light, not white anymore but a deep, molten red that flickered like fire trapped in glass. The hum intensified, a rumble that shook the dashboard, and the weight shifted again, a cold breath brushing his neck, wordless but heavy with intent. He felt it, The pull, not just from the car or the road, but from inside, a thread tugging at his ribs, urging him toward that glowing haze. His hands tightened on the wheel, slick with sweat, and he fought the urge to slam the brakes, knowing the sedan wouldn't listen. The road curved, dipping slightly before rising toward the archway, and the stone beneath gleamed brighter, reflecting the red light in wave. The spires around him leaned in, their tips bending toward the car like they were watching, and the mist thickened, curling around the tires, glowing brighter as it touched the white line. The voices softened, a murmur now, but they didn't fade, they lingered, a backdrop to the hum, whispering secrets he couldn't catch. The archway towered overhead, its jagged edges pulsing with that electric buzz, and the sedan slowed, not stopping but hesitating, as if giving him a moment to breathe, to decide. The weight beside him pressed closer, a hand resting on his arm, firm and cold, and the air grew heavy, thick with the scent of ozone and something sweeter, like rotting flour. He stared into the haze, the red light shifting, revealing glimpses, shapes moving within, not faces this time but outlines, silhouettes that stretched and twisted, reaching toward him. The voices named them, a roll call he couldn't follow, and his name wove through it, Lucas James, spoken soft and slow, a question or an invitation. The sedan crept forward, the engine purring low, and the archway's buzz grew louder, a sound that clawed at his ear. The white lines flared, splitting into a web that climbed the rock, pulsing faster, and he felt the car lift, just slightly, tires hovering an inch above the stone before settling back. The haze beckoned, a doorway to somewhere else, and the weight tightened its grip, a silent push toward the unknown. The road trembled, a faint quake rippling through the stone, and the mist surged, spilling over the hood, glowing red as it brushed the windshield. The sedan rolled closer, the archway's edge mere feet away, and the voices rose again. Not a chant now, but a hum of their own, blending with the cars, a harmony that sank into his bone. He leaned forward, squinting into the haze, and saw it, a flicker of something solid, a road beyond, winding through a landscape he couldn't name, dotted with shapes that might have been trees or towers or something alive. The light pulsed, the buzz sharpened, and the weight beside him shifted, a cold hand sliding to his neck, resting there, waiting. The sedan inched toward the threshold, the haze parting just enough to tease him with what lay ahead. Motion, color, a whisper of wind that didn't reach him yet. He held his breath, the hum filling the silence, and the voices murmured one last time. "You're here." Not an answer but a nudge, a thread left dangling. The sedan crossed the line, tires kissing the edge of the arch, and the red light flared, swallowing him whole, not blinding, but warm, a tide that pulled him in without force. The stone vanished, the spires faded, and the road stretched on, winding into the haze, the weight his anchor, the hum his guide. Where it led, what waited he didn't know. The light shifted, the voices lingered, and the sedan rolled forward, carrying him into a story still unfolding, a path without end, twisting through a world that breathed and watched, leaving him teetering on the edge of something vast, something unfinished. Maybe Lucas never chose that road, but did the next character have a choice? If this journey gave you chill, wait until you see the next one. A story where the danger isn't the road itself, but the one who decides the destination. Click now, before he closes his eyes again.